their customers. So we're going to show how Jaxon can help them do this, and can handle large policy documents as one of the neat new features we've added, and I'll walk you through that in our DAG editor, as well as other things to show you more of that.
I might interject a couple questions here and there.
Oh, please do.
For example, what does DAG stand for?
I was going to get there when I shut it off, but it's a directed acyclic graph. So think of it as almost like a workflow where you move from piece to piece, and there might be this, branches where you can go down branch A or branch B, but there aren't going to be any circling back. It's all directed
one way, right?
Like a tree, from the root to the nodes. So I can show that a little bit better when we get to the platform itself. So I'm going to click through to the platform here. And this is all currently hosted on our cloud space, but everything we do here can be on-prem as well. There's nothing tied to any of our cloud instances. And for a bunch of the work we do for various customers, they get their own standalone instance located on their premises without any need to call out to the internet or share any information beyond their internal network.
Yeah, I'll emphasize that and an additional word saying the same things, that you have all the ChatGPTs and Anthropics of the world that are out there that are very powerful, but the open source varieties are equally almost as powerful and very useful, and we can bring them into environments where they're not touching the internet, they're not leaking any kind of sensitive information, fully contained and air-gapped environments.
And they're getting more powerful all the time. OpenAI just released some new open source models that we're already taking advantage of.
First one since GPT-2.
Yeah.
Pretty excited for it. Yeah.
All right, so why don't we start here on the demo page. This is just to clarify, this is our own internal engineering interface. So you're really getting to see the sausage being made here. We are obviously capable of creating higher level, more sophisticated, more customized applications for customers. But I really wanted to see low level what we're doing and the latest and greatest. So this is what we dog food. This is what we use ourselves to test and evaluate and use the system when we want to. So you can set up various applications. An application is a set of guardrails that get applied that do an overall thing. We would call an application from inside of an agent that we would build for a customer to be part of their workflow and help them achieve their goals. I'll jump down here. This is the bond analytics demo, so I can walk you through this.
Let's do a step back and talk about at a high level. What's the use case here?
Okay. The use case is an analyst gets a large number of bonds, and they would like to analyze them based upon their criteria, what their company decides is the things that they care about, or what the analyst decides what they want to know. And that can be a growing set of institutional knowledge that can be specific to the analyst. We keep track of all of that. But they can then turn those into, using our policy rules guardrail, into questions and information that gets extracted from each bond and gets turned into essentially in a filtering type capacity into a pass or fail. Which bonds satisfy the requirements they've set and which ones do not. And then there's another level of introspection because we provide an audit trail for everything we do. So which pieces of information allowed a bond to pass, or if a bond failed, what did it fail on? Because it might be that you have a whole bunch of things, and in a perfect world, you'd like, a set of bonds that does exactly what you'd like, but no bond may satisfy that. The number that satisfies it might not be large enough. So you can actually go in and do additional filtering or look at which bonds, right? A poison put might be takes it right off the table. But if the yield is a little less than you'd like, you can turn the knob a little bit and widen or shrink the aperture of what you're looking at.
All right, let me add a little bit more color here. For those that haven't looked at a bond indenture, it's the legal agreement between the company that's issuing the bond and the trustee that's administering the bond. It's a legal agreement. It's over 100 pages sometimes, oftentimes north of 50 or most of the time. And there's a lot of legalese, a lot of boilerplate legalese that are not worthy of a human's time to read. There, obviously, every word in a legal agreement matters. So you do want to look at the whole thing, but that's where large language models can really come into play, is to ferret out the things that actually matter and would impact risk on that particular bond instrument. And the areas of a legal agreement or this bond indenture that really matter are the covenants, specifically the restrictive covenants that I call it the teeth that it puts on the company that during the course of the bond, that company must adhere to. So you alluded to one called poison put that has to do with whether or not there's provisions around a leverage buyout. There are other parameters that are explained in these covenants, like liquidity requirements, debt equity ratios that must be adhered to. And so that's where analysts really need to find whether or not it aligns to their strategy, their company's policies around what types of bonds are they into.
Thank you. That's helpful. Hopefully that clarifies things, adds some more detail. I'm gonna switch back to the demo and talk a little bit about some of the new features we've added. So one of the first new features that I'm going to point out is we now have this context document that whether you're doing a large application or not, provides some real value to the customer in that they can now specify pieces of information specialized to their company or their situation that gets applied across everything you do. So that could be, what's the name of your company, who are the relevant individuals working there, any information about, let's say, the state that you're in, or funds that you hold, or things like that, which may or may not come into play for any given set guardrails usage, but in a RAG type fashion provides better context to your situation and what you're trying to do, and information about you. So from there, we'll go on to this DAG capability to generate the guardrails that you're most interested in. The idea here is that as we talk to actual bond analysts, lots of times what they're looking for and the policies they want to apply are very large. It's not a few questions. It's not a few pieces of information. It's a large policy document that they want to apply specific parts of. So this new capability to generate what we're calling a directed acyclic graph allows you to give a large policy document and then operate on the portions that you care about. Create a guardrail for each subset of information based on the topics that are in that document. So coming down here to this DAG editor, because it's a little easier to visually show what I'm talking about. This is a simple DAG. We have a start, which is where the bond to be analyzed would come in. We have these directed arrows that always go down, right? That's the directed acyclic part. And this graph shows you that you can put your bond through multiple guardrails and then aggregate the results. So we have a guardrail here that's focused on government and events, another one that's focused on payments and priorities. We have a fun capability here where you can auto extract the key topics from your policy documents, so you do not have to do this by hand, or you can enter them yourself if there are specific things you really care about. And this is really an editor. So if you have large documents like bonds, you can add what's called a chunker, which operates on a portion of the document at a time and works through all its way through the whole document and then combines the results. You can use some of our other guardrails. They don't all have to be policy rules. Jaxon the platform provides a large number, whether that's consensus or asking the same sets of questions across multiple LLMs or rewording the questions multiple times. There's a number of ways. And then there's a regex match, which is our word matching.
Rewording the questions and making sure that the answer still aligns.
For our consensus, yes. But the regex could be things like specific words that you want to keep a lookout for. So that gives you an idea of how we can deal with these larger documents. Here are the two guardrails we were just looking at. I'll do a quick click through just so you can see. It's a policy rule guardrail. We're able to take a big policy document and then extract the rules from that, turn that rules into our domain-specific language DSAL that encapsulates the logic that you'd like to run across them with our formal method solver. And then you can go in here and see and tweak the questions if you'd like, add additional context that might make sense for you, if there are certain ways you want the questions interpreted or spun based upon your specific needs. So that's an example of the guardrails. This is what we call our playground. This is where our engineers can go in and try stuff out and play with the system. We are using this application Bond Analytics demo, and just to give it some, where's the word you use, teeth, we can show here an actual synthetic bond document. This is compatible with what you normally see, but we didn't want to run any individual bond through for privacy's sake. But this is where you could do this. Here we're doing this manually because this is our playground. We're trying stuff out. Obviously, in a real application and with a real agent that Jaxon built for you, it would auto ingest all of the bonds and the documents you cared about. But here we can do submit, and it will run through the application guardrails that were set up for this application. And this will take a moment because it's a very long document, and we're operating in our playground. We can speed up and operationalize this a lot more when we're not doing engineering demos. All right, so we're going to take a look at the audit trail and a few of the outputs here as soon as this finishes, and give you a flavor for what the platform can do for you. Now, this is obviously focused on bonds and analyzing them, but this technology could be applied to just about anything. We're just using a use case to sort of give a flavor for what can be done. So one of the nice aspects of our capability is that you don't have to have an answer to every question. LLMs are people pleasers. If you force it to give an answer, it will, and it will make up that answer if it needs to, if it doesn't have the relevant information. We allow things to take on unknown values. If, let's say, change of control covenants are not part of the bond, leave that as an unknown. Don't try to force an answer there, because whether you force a yes or a no, it's going to be wrong. So you can see we've extracted values, things like issuer's net leverage, is the sale sale offer price at least par, and you can actually go through and audit these if you care about for what those values were and whether or not it satisfied the requirements, with an overall conclusion of yes, it does satisfy the things that were requested from the policy document. So that's a quick overview.
All right, we actually have a couple questions from the audience, so let's address those now. Okay. Please do keep adding more questions in. So first question is, how do we differ from other guardrails on the market, other competitive technologies?
So a superset. So we are able to do what all of those other or the majority of those other guardrails do, unless someone has something really weird. We give you those capabilities with our agentic and our regex matching, but the policy rules is unique to Jaxon, and is really the most powerful of the things we do that let you really get in and create an audit trail for what you care about and specify very clearly what's acceptable and what's not, and use the LLMs to do what they do best, which is extract information rather than trying to get them to do more than they're capable of.
Quick 30 seconds on the difference between probabilistic and deterministic.
Sure. So uh, probabilistic, so the LLMs are inherently probabilistic. They give you the next most likely piece of information based upon patterns they've seen in the past, which is how they end up being people pleasers. I mean, their whole purpose is to inference or make an educated guess on what they should be doing based upon what they've seen. So whether that's filling in what a sentence should look like when they're generating something from scratch, or filling in a piece of data that they have to guess. If they don't have the data readily available, they will infer what it might be and make something up. Deterministic is the opposite of probabilistic. It's what the answer is going to be, and it's going to be the same answer every time. So things like RAG get you closer, reduce the probability of error and get you closer towards determinism. Using agentic guardrails where you're asking the same question in different ways, you're asking it different AI models and things like that, get you closer because the likelihood that they're all going to make the same probabilistic error is relatively low, uh, unless, is in general relatively low, depending on the question. The rules get you even further, right? The data extraction is a low probability of error capability that the LMs are designed to do, and matches, falls right in their wheelhouse. And the SMT solver we use to apply formal methods and reason over what gets extracted is completely deterministic. It is an optimization problem that gets mathematically solved and gives you the same answer every time and tells you why it gave you that answer. So that's what allows us to provide that extra information, that audit trail, that assurance that the LLM is telling you what you actually need to know instead of what you'd like to hear.
All right. Well, this second and last question, because we're out of time now, is which guardrail do people find the most reliability with?
Definitely the policy rules for the reasons I just said.
Yep. All the agentic ones are great. They're like vitamins. They give you some increased assurance on top of the LLM as a vanilla LLM, and even more assurance than just LLM as a judge. The techniques we're doing are innovative and they are getting you closer, but the policy rules guardrail either is or it isn't.
Yep.
All right, very good. Well,
thank you for listening and letting us show you some of what we can do. And please feel free to reach out. Go to jaxon.ai to learn more, and to get in touch with us if you have any further questions or just want to chat.
Great. Thank you all.
Thanks.